You know, I tried really hard to enjoy this game. I gave it multiple play sessions, multiple recordings. I even watched my boyfriend go through this game, and I thought, maybe it isn't as boring as I remember. And I was wrong. It's worse! Mega Man X3 is a game that I have a bit of a weird history with. It was always the game I avoided the most when playing the X Collection, all the way back on the PS2. Something about it just seemed to pull me away from it. And when I did finally play it, I died. A lot. So I went to play other games thinking I would be better at it once I got more experience at it. Did that change anything? X3 continues to remain the most brutal Mega Man X game to play from the start, as you start off pitifully weak, that some bosses and regular enemies can kill you in around 2 to 3 hits. Knockout! This game is absolutely at its hardest at the start, which is a very bizarre difficulty curve. That, and honestly, most of the stages really don't have that much interesting level design, nor do most of the bosses. I'll be going into depth for all of that as we go through this game's many imperfections. No, cut! No, I'm not doing that! Originally, I was going to go into serious depth of each individual stage. But I can't. Because there's hardly anything for me to say. I tried so hard to write a detailed script here for this video about each stage. Its secrets, but I just for the life of me could not. And it mainly comes down to that the stage design is so incredibly bland. They may have had a cool aesthetic, but other than the enemies, there is nothing in the level design that will challenge you. The entire difficulty comes from the enemies, which hit you ridiculously hard at the start of the game. And until you get the body armor, you will be begging Bit and Byte to not randomly show up, which are incredibly tough bosses to take on after only 2 stages in the game. You will have so little health and be unaware of their boss patterns, for Bit especially, that you will just die over and over and over again. Like what happens in a non-recorded playthrough where I ran into Bit in the 3rd stage, and I just could not beat him without grinding sub-take energy, because I only had 1 heart tank upgrade at that point. As for the stage design, oh my gosh, these levels are so bland! Blizzard's Buffalo stage at least looks cool, but the most challenging aspect of the stage is at the very end, where you have to go through a section of enemies, make a difficult jump, then run all the way back to get an E-tank. But this is only hard because enemies respawn the second they are off the screen. Toxic Seahorse has absolutely nothing to threaten you with, other than these 2 enemies that hit ridiculously hard at the start, which is why I always dash over them. Yeah, I go out of my way not to fight in X3. And this one section near the end that can kill you with spikes if you aren't careful sliding down, other than that, it's very meh. Tunnel Rhino. Tunnel freaking Rhino. Oh my gosh, I hate this stage so much. And do you want to know why? It's because you have to, no matter what, come here without the armor your first run. Yes, I said first run, because X3 has terrible backtracking. These enemies hit you so ridiculously hard. If it's not the rocks, it's everything else in the stage threatening to kill you in a few hits. The stage itself is not hard, just the enemies. They hurt so bad, and you have to play so cautiously that once again, I just dash over the enemies. The mini-boss is easy, but it hurts really hard. And I have to stress, if you want the body armor or buster upgrade, you have to come here at some point. So you will be visiting this stage underpowered, no matter how you plan out your route. Unless you are fine with coming here near the end, and then you have to do so much backtracking. So you are going to want to come here early, because you need this boss's weapon to get a vast majority of other heart tanks and upgrades. But you just die so easily, it just... Ugh! Moving on. Volt Catfish's stage has some interesting gimmicks, but it's not really that threatening. The heart tank location is kind of a dick move, though. I like these electric things on the wall near the end. Yeah, that's it. Not much to say about this one. I guess the elevators is kind of cool. Crushed Crawfish's stage, aesthetically, is kind of okay to look at, but again, it's kind of just a straight shot. Not much should really challenge you because these enemies aren't that threatening in this stage. Yeah, I really got nothing to say about this stage. It's kind of bland. Neon Tiger is actually a stage that can somewhat threaten you with its mid-boss, being not exactly a pushover, but if you pace yourself, you will come through just fine. Honestly, this is one of the better stages in terms of difficulty and feeling mostly balanced. You won't die easily here, but if you just try to bum rush through, you probably will, so it's got a good balanced difficulty. Gravity Beetle's stage aesthetic is pretty cool once you go up high and see the background. Very satisfying to see, and the elevators feel cool to ride up and destroy some enemies on the way. The stage just makes you feel cool for going through. A fun stage to play, honestly. It's not that challenging, but it's fun. And lastly, Blast Hornet's stage. Again, it's got a cool aesthetic with being some kind of place where Doppler gets his army's weapons and such. The conveyor belt slightly spices things up, but not too much. And it's here where we get our first and required ride armor, where we can punch through stuff. Woo! This wireframe boss is also kind of fun to fight, as it has 3 different modes of attack that makes you change your strategy. So, you might be wondering, hey, Empress Dawn, if you get your health drained so far in the earlier stages, why not just get the body armor ASAP? Oh, if only it were that easy! Let's go through the list, shall we? First, you need the air dash part from Blizzard Buffalo's stage, which is a boss that hurts really hard at that point in the game. Second, you need Tunnel Rhino's weapon, which, let me remind you, is incredibly difficult at this stage in the game. Now after this, you could go on to Neon Tiger, but Neon Tiger is one of the hardest boss fights, but you need to go to a stage to get the Buster upgrade, which you need for getting the body armor. So, if you are sane, you will go to Crush Crawfish's stage first, as he isn't that hard, and you can just get his weapon and then use it to beat Neon Tiger. So that's either 1 or 2 stages that you need to do on top of what we mentioned. Then, after that, you have to beat Gravity Beetle's stage, which the boss is also very hard without his weakness, so at least you just got done with Neon Tiger. Now, you have a choice to make. you can go to either Blast Hornet stage and get your first ride armor, which you will need to get rid of backtracking in Volt Catfish's stage, or you can just go to Volt Catfish. Then, and only then, can you reach the area where you need the Charged Gravity Beetle's weapon to finally reach the body armor. So, at minimum, you have to do Blizzard Buffalo, then Tunnel Rhino, then Neon Tiger, then Gravity Beetle, then you go to Volt Catfish. But if you are not wanting to drive yourself insane, you will go to Crush Crawfish first, because Neon Tiger is incredibly hard to Buster only. And then you will go to Blast Hornet before going to Volt Catfish, so you don't have to backtrack too hard. That's 4 to 6 stages for the body armor, which, by the time you get the body armor, you will have so many heart tanks and upgrades that you won't need it nearly as badly anymore. At that point, all you have left is Volt Catfish and Toxic Seahorse, which are just jokes with their weaknesses. Do you understand what I am saying? By the time you get the body armor, you will have all the weaknesses to the other bosses, so you won't even need it anymore. That is just so backwards. In X1, if you wanted to, you could get the body armor whenever you wanted in Sting Chameleon stage. Yeah, most likely you would not get there until later, but if you were suffering, you could get it as soon as possible. In X2, you get the body armor within 2 stages. 3 if you play optimally, as all you need is Wheelgator's weapon in the Moth stage. So what in the holy heck is this, where you have to beat almost half the game to finally get the body armor when you so desperately needed it within the first 3 stages? I am sorry to scream about this for so long, but this is really one of my biggest issues with this game, because you just have to play a certain way to get all the upgrades. Yeah, you can play in a less optimized way, so you do Tunnel Rhino and Neon Tiger much later, but you will still have so much backtracking that it's insane! And unfortunately, that is not the end of the horrible experience that is completing the game. So, you run into these pink capsules throughout the stages. That gives you additional abilities like a double air dash, but you can only hold on to one of these parts at a time. Alright, so it just means increased replayability with what parts you choose. No! Because the game will actively punish you for equipping these pink capsules, because at the end of the game, on the first Doppler stage, you get the gold armor, which has all of the enhancement chips in one. So why would you ever equip these once you know that? Why does this game punish you for exploring? That's just so backwards. Also, you can only get the first ride armor by doing Blast Hornet stage to unlock the other ones. But the armors hardly do anything and are just used for upgrades. But it just leads to more backtracking you have to do for 100%. And getting the gold armor, so that's why I didn't mention them till now. I forgot to mention the music of this game. It's not that good, at least to me. There are only 2 songs that stand out as definitively good songs. And that's the opening stage and Zero's theme. The rest of the soundtrack just blends in together. Like, listen to Tunnel Rhino stage, and it sounds almost identical to so many other songs in the game. They went way too hard on the guitar for this game. So, you are probably wondering why I failed to mention any of the bosses. It's because they are either easy to dodge and hit them, but deal an insane amount of damage, or they have obnoxious patterns that are hard to deal with, but when you use their weaknesses, they break in half. Repeating the same action over and over as you get stuck in a loop that just utterly curb stomps them. But hey, if you don't have their weaknesses, then prepare for you to get curb stomped because of how hard they hit, leaving little room for trial and error. Also, so many of the bosses, including the late game bosses, just love to ram into the wall. Forward and backward and forward and backward and again. But they deal so much damage that it's actually threatening. So the bosses either curb stomp you if you don't have their weaknesses, other than bosses like Tunnel Rhino and Blizzard Buffalo. And when the stage itself is not that hard, it leads to a very empty feeling if you die to the bosses and have to repeat the bland stages just for another chance. You just can't win with this game. It's either curb stomping you into the ground, or you crush these bosses with their weaknesses, and it's just not satisfying. Oh, and you also have to deal with Bit and Bite again, randomly appearing. So there's that too, which adds to the difficulty. Which, yeah, this game needed to be even harder. But, on to something positive. And that's the big secret weapon you get in this game, and how you get it. Mostly. So first, you need to have to find Vile and kill him with his weakness. Simple enough. Now you probably noticed why I failed to mention Zero even once throughout this video. And that's because you need him alive in order to get the secret weapon. And he can't fight bosses, and if he dies once, you can never use him again. So yeah, that's why you didn't see me even once use him, because the game advertises this as a cool function you can use at the start of the game, but if he dies only once, then why risk using him? Especially when you know you need him to get the super secret weapon. So now we get to the final stages. You get to Doppler Castle and it's moderately challenging, with walls that can crush you, ceiling spikes, and this is where you get your gold armor, which feels awesome to have, and the boss fights change depending on whether you kill Bit and Bite, so hey, that's cool. These bosses hurt like crazy, but now the difficulty actually feels fair. This is actually a good stage. Look at that! I'm having a bit of fun again. On to the second stage. And it's just okay. It's really not challenging in the slightest compared to what you have been through. There is this one slowly ascending platform challenge you have to do and not run into spikes. But that's about it. But this is where our patience for killing Vile and keeping Zero alive pays off. The door that would lead to a boss we can actually play as Zero with, but how would we know that when the game constantly forces us to switch back to X every time we're near a door? But hey, it's fine. It's a secret. So we can just enter the door as Zero and fight this boss. Ah shit, I got captured and I died? Oh, well I guess I gotta restart the game and reload with the password. Because Zero's death will be counted as saved if I just game over and continue. Alright, let's just reload the game, and I'm at Doppler Stage 1. And I don't have the gold armor. I have to redo both stages. It was, at this very moment, my last bit of sanity for this game was completely reduced to shreds. realizing that I only have one shot at getting the Z-Saber, and then having to replay both stages with no sub-tanks because I have to refill them now. This utterly broke me. No, I was already disliking this game greatly, but that is what brought this into hate. I actively stopped playing the game and turned it off. What you are seeing beyond this is recording from a separate playthrough weeks before this one. I just could not stand it anymore. I'm glad I recorded that. Alright, now we return to the fun parts. So, you beat the boss as Zero, and you get a Z-Saber, which just shreds enemies to pieces. So incredibly satisfying and fun. I love it. A good reward for all the bullcrap we had to go through. Yes, this is what I am talking about. The super move of the game. The next boss goes down ridiculously easy with Zero's Z-Saber. Next stage is the boss rush, where I get to play around with the new Z-Saber. So, insert boss montage destruction here. Finally, we are at Dr. Doppler himself, and he fires 3 projectiles that are super easy to dodge, and then charges at you from right to left, just like the other bosses. He goes down easy. Then we get the revelation that, shocker! Sigma is the final boss! And this boss is easily the hardest Sigma fight in the SNES trilogy, and maybe the entire series. He just hits so freaking hard! And keep in mind, I've got the gold armor, which heavily reduces the damage I take. I could not imagine ever taking him on without this thing. First we have his Captain America phase, where he will toss fireballs at you, and then his shield. He actually hits fast and really hard, so you have to be cautious and use those walls and time your shots correctly. But with enough patience, or spin blades, we get through it and onto the final boss. Kaiser Sigma. That tiny little head you see there? That is his hitbox. And every other part of him will deflect your shot, except for a very specific opening on his shoulders. It is so hard to hit him with such a tiny hitbox. And while you are doing that, you are dodging so many rockets, lasers, mines that seek you out. This boss battle will push you so hard. It's easily an incredibly difficult boss fight. But at last, you defeat him, and now have to escape a rising lava pit. I've never died here, but I imagine if I did, I would lose my sanity again. And then Sigma tries to take our body, but Doppler comes in and injects him with the virus, saving us. Then X looks over the horizon, wondering how long must Reploids fight one another? And that the credits state that X must destroy Zero? I'm sorry, what? When in the game was it ever hinted that X needs to fight Zero? I know it happens later, but why suddenly drop that like that? And that was X3. Oh my gosh. I wanted to like this game so much. I did multiple full playthroughs and attempts just to see if changing my route would change my hatred of this game. But no, it only got worse the more I played. This is now, next to X7 definitively being the worst for the most boring, this is easily my most hated Mega Man X game in the series. Yes, even more than X6. Because while that game has its own crap to deal with, at least I can abuse glitches and Black Armor Zero to actually have fun with it. I tried so hard to like this game, but I just can't. I hate it. It's overly punishing at the start. The discovery of items is completely backwards. It punishes you for exploring. The level design is bland. Most of the bosses are boring, just charging left and right, just... ugh. This is not a Mega Man X game I want to return to anytime soon. I'll play any X game over this, except 7, any day. Hey, wow. You know, this video didn't start out as an insane rant, but the more I went into it, I just lost it with how much I hate this game. But hey, thanks for sticking around to the end of this video. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Maybe consider leaving a like and subscribe to the channel to see more of this? This was actually my first ever full video game review I've done on this channel, and I hope it does well. It would mean the world to me if you left a comment on what your thoughts are on this video, and the game as a whole. If you enjoy X3, more power to you. I just could not find any enjoyment over it. I tend to stream the games I want to make videos about here on YouTube, so that's a really good way to catch me. And hey, memberships are live. If you really want to help, consider joining one of the tiers and get cute little emotes in my streams. You can also join my Ko-fi tiers in the link below if you really want to support me. And hey, consider joining my Discord to see what I am up to, and check out my closest friends' activities. Honestly, don't expect there to be a vast amount of rant review videos like this. I just wanted to review X3 as it was, but it ended up turning into a rant. I think the next X game I'm going to review is one I actually like. So it'll either be X6, yes, I actually like that game, or maybe X2. So expect a more positive review when I review the X series again. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Bye!